Hi, everybody. We are here today talking about how we balance working and homeschooling. And we know that this is something that a lot of people struggle with and continue to struggle with even post-COVID. So we wanted to kind of take some time because this is something that Stacy and I have a lot of experience with, unfortunately, because we would love to do all the things, but we just have to be able to have some discernment in our homeschools because we work. So we're going to talk today about how we make it work. We're going to talk about some responses from our audience about how they've made it work or how they feel about working in homeschooling. So we're really excited to tackle this topic with you. I'm Jenny. I'm one of your hosts, and we also have here Stacy.
Hello, everybody. It is good to be here. It is the end of a work day for both Jenny and I. So
A work week. A work week.
Work week, yeah. So it's been tough. So we both were just chatting just a second ago. We're just like, this is the perfect time to talk about this because we are tired, and that's just the way it goes sometimes.
This is raw footage right now. Like we're both just like, let's go into the weekend. So okay. What do I want to say first? Yeah, we're Kids Learning for Life. We both work full time and we both homeschool our kids. And that's kind of a unique perspective because I think a lot of channels out there are fortunate to have stay-at-home moms, which Stacy and I hope to be one day. But for right now, just based on how things are, we do work. I work full-time from home. Stacy works mostly full-time from home, right, Stacy?
Yeah, so it's full-time from home-ish. It's a flexible thing. There are times where I have to go meet people and do meetings and such. But a lot of the bulk of it is online stuff.
Right. And so everyone who works or anyone that works, period, has a different type of work flow and schedule and everything and location. Even there's differences between mine and Stacy's jobs. And when we talk about we're working, we're not just talking about Kids Learning for Life. We're talking about like we have real jobs in addition to homeschooling and also doing Kids Learning for Life, which is our favorite side hustle. So I think we should dive into some of those comments that we got, Stacy, and because people had some interesting perspectives about the different kinds of work that you could be doing and how it makes it harder sometimes or maybe easier to homeschool.
Yeah, so we definitely put up a poll on our YouTube community. So if you're not subscribed to us or you're not seeing these, make sure you're subscribed. Check on your feed. They should pop up every once in a while. But we were curious, is it possible to work full-time and homeschool? And I was actually a little bit shocked that 13% said no, it's not possible, period.
I agree. I'm just kidding.
Sometimes it feels that way. It really does. And I could see how, if you've got two parents working full-time, it can seem hard, but I have seen it done. It's not easy. And I think that's kind of the big thing. If you take away one thing, just know that if you do want to work in homeschool, it's not like we're not here to say, oh, this is super easy. It's hard. It takes commitment and time commitment from you. And so I was very curious. So we have the It Depends selection here that people can choose. And some people, said it depends on what. So we have Debbie said, I think it depends on what you do and when you can do it. She works as a freelancer and can set her own hours, but when she has a lot of projects, it can be really tiring and tough. They take advantage of they take it easier when it's those busier times with online programs such as Night Zookeeper and Reading Eggs, which I also utilize as well. And it would be possible to do all the time, but you have to be mentally prepared. So you just have to really plan ahead and want to make it work. And then we also had Natalie said, you can, but definitely not easy. I think that's, again, main takeaway. Depends on if you have help. Being single and full-time would be hard unless you have family willing to help, and that's definitely true. Natalie worked the first few years of homeschooling on evening and night shifts. That's got to be hard. So power to you. It did get harder as she added in more kids, so went to part-time for a while. Now that she's working and definitely able to do a lot better. So again, that's another way that you can work is I've seen people do it, doing the evening and night shifts, coming home, sleeping really quick, and then getting up and doing homeschool with your kids. There's so many different ways I have seen people make it work, but it's not easy.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I am all that to say, like anyone who's homeschooling their own kids, there are sacrifices no matter what. So for us, time just happens to be one of the main, or time is one of the main resources that we struggle with. I think we could both say that, Stacy. For even for people who do stay home and their main job is to homeschool, there are of course sacrifices that are made there as well, like financial sacrifices and all sorts of things. So no matter what, homeschool is a sacrifice. You have to be able to prioritize it and make it a part of your life, for better or for worse. And yeah, so I guess a little bit about how I make it all work is I start working pretty early in the morning between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. And then my lunch lands usually around 10 a.m. And that's usually when I do homeschool with my kids. The bulk of like the daily work, the math, the reading, language arts, whatever. So around 10 a.m. that's when I do that, and it works out because usually by then the girls have they've eaten. Well, hopefully that by then they're awake. Sometimes they're not always. So they're awake, they've eaten, they've usually practiced piano by then at least once, and then we move into lessons, and they kind of know that's what's expected, or they've like done some chores, or maybe they have some chores to do after school, but what they know that I have to do it at a certain time. I can't sit around and wait for them, or I can't say, I know this is hard for you and we'll come back to this later. Like that's kind of not an option with my schedule. So my kids do have to be flexible with that. And that's kind of taught them some resilience, because I'm like, hey, we got to do this right now. And I also make sure to keep lessons really short. And if you know anything about me, I'm really drawn to the Charlotte Mason method of homeschooling. And short lessons are a big deal in Charlotte Mason. And I always gravitated towards this approach even before I went back to work full time. But it really has been a huge saving grace in my homeschool, because if I believed in doing hours of every subject every day, my homeschool wouldn't look like that, and I would be disappointed every day. So luckily it works out really well for me. And yeah, I think that's about it. My kids don't really use a lot of online stuff. Like they don't do a lot of independent work. I think it's more about, for me, prioritizing that time on my lunch to dedicate to homeschool and nothing else. And that's really tough, because I could say, hey, on my lunch, I want to take a nap. Or, hey, on my lunch, I need to do the dishes, or I need to do any sort of things around the house. But that time is dedicated already in my mind, and it's blocked out for homeschooling. And that's just part of making these sacrifices like we were already talking about. So that's kind of how I homeschool and work in a nutshell. Very small nutshell, because it gets more complicated than that sometimes. Stacy, what about your setup and routine?
Okay, so I had a few questions for you that I think people might find interesting. Yeah. So do you have help at home, or is your husband mostly working out of the house? I mean, I know the answer to this. I'm asking on behalf of our listeners here.
I was just talking to my husband about this yesterday. I can't believe this is coming up. No, he's hardly ever home, and I don't have any family who lives anywhere near me. So there is basically no help. I'm alone with 3 crazy children mostly every day, all day, every day. So it rests on me to get all this stuff done. So that's why I do feel a lot of pressure about getting housework done and all that, or like organizing, I don't know, doing the other things, because it's just me 90% of the time at home.
Okay, and the second and last question is, so during your lunch, you said you do a bulk of the homeschool. How do you fit in all the other stuff?
Okay, yeah, good question. Sorry, I'm really glad you're here.
It's the end of a work week, Jenny. We're both exhausted.
Yeah. Okay, so during my lunch, that is when I do the daily work that has to be done, which these are the things I consider that must do's. It's piano, and it's math, and some sort of reading, language arts type thing. My kids are kind of past phonics, so I don't know what to call it anymore. It's not really, I wouldn't say it's like even language arts, but copy work, memorizing a poem, something like that, right? So I get off work usually around 3 p.m. my time, 3 or 4 p.m. my time. And after that is usually because I also use the Amplify Online curriculum for my homeschool, which is basically just a reading schedule and a book list, or a book list and a reading schedule in which to read those books. And so usually that time between work and having to cook dinner or go off to soccer practice or whatever else is spent me reading aloud and having them do narrations. So this could be one very short reading, like we're reading Little Pilgrim's Progress right now. The chapters are super short, so if I was really pressed for time, I would just do one short chapter and have them narrate that and then call it a day. Today, I actually did a bunch of reading. Maybe that's actually, it's not the work that I just read a ton today, so out loud. And so we got a lot of the readings done because we haven't done as much lately. And so yeah, in the afternoons, that's when I do all the extras. I guess that's the long answer for your question.
Okay, awesome. I don't think I have any more questions, so I guess I'll move on.
I feel pressure to have questions for you.
You let me know if you have any. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see. So I work full-time from home. And like I said, there are certain things I have flexibility, but not on everything. Like there are meetings that I have to make and have to make time for, but there are some like tasks in my job that I can kind of do later in the evening that just have to get done by X date, but not necessarily by a specific like hour of the day. And my husband works for himself, so it's kind of hit or miss if he's here. So it's not really something I rely on. I mean, we do, again, if I have to go somewhere, then we try to arrange it to where he's home to watch the kids. And if there's homeschooling that needs to be done, he can kind of step in every once in a while. So I can go to a meeting away from the house. But for the most part, I am doing most of the homeschooling. With the flexible work schedule, like I said, some days there are meetings early in the morning. Some days I have meetings in the afternoon. So I have to kind of switch things around quite a bit. And I do aim to do most of the homeschooling in the morning. And then if there is something that comes up, I do rely on some independent programs such as Reading Eggs or Math Seeds. And then also this year I'm trying out IXL, which I'll let you know. I don't quite have feelings on that yet, but it kind of works, I think. So I have not fully sat down and looked at that to see what I really think about it yet, but it is something that gives them that extra little bit of learning, especially in the English language arts and math. That was actually what we did today. We did some Reading Eggs and Math Seeds, and I was super busy. I had meetings away from the home all day today, and they just had to do that. And then they also did some of their independent work. So things like practicing piano and like doing some of their silent reading while I was gone, things that they could do without me and know that I know that they're getting something done while I'm gone. Let's see, what else do I take advantage of? I also take advantage of classes if I can. So right now we're using Homeschool Spanish Academy. And so that's a way where I'm kind of trying to outsource certain things that I don't know. I don't have time, and I also don't know Spanish. So I'm trying to outsource certain things that I think they'll get a better education if they're learning from somebody that actually knows how to speak it and has the accent and everything, and me trying to figure out words and be wrong. So utilizing things that other people can teach. And in this day and age, and I mean, there was so much going on in 2020, I think that did really open up the realm of a bunch of virtual options, especially for homeschoolers. Things became so much more virtual friendly. So definitely take advantage of those where you can. And I have definitely learned to go with the flow. When I first started, because I've always been working while homeschooling, and when I first started, I had this schedule in my head, and I was definitely a traditional homeschooler in the beginning. And I had we're going to do math at this time and reading at this time. And I had it all scheduled out, and things would just blow up in my face, guys. It was terrible. I'd have one of those meetings come up that I couldn't get out of. So then I was like, well, where am I going to fit in math now? That's during my math time. So I've definitely learned to try and go with the flow a little bit more and have more flexibility. And if I didn't work, I know that my homeschool would look a totally different. Jenny, I don't know if yours, what do you think? If you were
Yeah.
not working and you were just stay-at-home mom, what would you envision your homeschool looking like?
I feel pretty lucky because the way that I homeschool actually, like with the Charlotte Mason method, actually does lend itself pretty well to having kind of limited time to sit with my kids and do things. Like it does, there's a lot of like rituals and habits that your kids are supposed to get into and learn how to do on their own. And sure, it's an investment to teach those things, but once they have them, and they're going to know what's expected of them. And that's something I'm working on, getting them to do things without me necessarily. But I feel like if I wasn't working, I would be doing a lot more of what we call in Charlotte Mason the riches. So basically for me, I have like other than like classes we go to, like, soccer, or we do, choir and drama type stuff. Other than that, we don't do any sort of like extracurricular, like I haven't done foreign language like you have. I haven't, and Spanish is something I'm kind of familiar with, so I'm comfortable with teaching it. So that's why I don't really want to I don't need to sign my kids up for a class necessarily at this point, but that it is something that I should probably consider because I need to outsource some things. But like, foreign language, my kids love doing handicrafts, but I would love to get more into like artist or composer study, those sorts of things. And I've been trying to slowly work those in some sort of way, like even sacrificing that daily work time during my lunch to instead do artist study. We just did that once this week. So that was kind of fun actually. But that's the thing. I was just thinking, I'm like, what if I didn't work? I would probably just read aloud a lot more. And I'd probably be way super ahead on the Ambleside Online schedule. So maybe it's a good thing that I don't, because my kids would be like going through all the years way too fast. And that's definitely not what I want. It's just, I do like doing these things. I would be happier because I would be doing the things that I enjoy doing with my kids, which is reading aloud and doing crafts and art and, stuff like that. What about you?
Yeah, so I definitely love unit studies. And the only thing I have found wrong with me liking unit studies is they require a lot of prep. Even though I've found like Layers of Learning has kind of a unit study approach. And then I know Gather Round Homeschool has like a unit study approach. But I tried Layers of Learning and I really liked the curriculum if I had more time to put into it. And
Yeah.
I never really made the time to make that work. It was so much easier for me to go to different curriculums that are just open and go friendly, that I know what's coming next. I don't have to plan for hours outside of doing the curriculum. So if I was not working, again, that would be nice, but not financially up work. It won't work right now.
Right. So you would prep more. You would do things that require more prep.
Yes, and I would do a lot of family style unit studies. And yeah, because I really like making curriculum and coming up with my own thing. I think that's the biggest draw to unit studies, is because I get to kind of take something and kind of make whatever I think my kids are going to be most interested in. And so it's just not reasonable for me to think that there's a curriculum out there. People can try their best, but it's just, what my kids like best at the time is going to be different. And I'm going to pick up on different things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of unit studies and you making curriculum, maybe we should talk about our film unit studies really quick, because I do genuinely think that it would be a good resource for people who are busy and need to have something to provide to their kids. And it's not even so in our film unit studies, if you know what unit studies are, it's a homeschool method that centers you cover multiple subjects all centered around a certain topic. So in this case, it's film unit studies. So each unit study is centered around a film that we chose that are family friendly. The whole family loves these. They're classics for the most part. And we cover the 4 core subjects, so language arts, math, science, and history or geography. And then we also have lessons for the arts and movie magic. So I'm not trying to make this the whole purpose of this video is not to plug this, but I do genuinely think it's a good tool for families who are really short on time, because you're going to watch the movies anyway. Like, we've all watched these movies. We have Mary Poppins, we have Snow White, Toy Story, Wizard of Oz, and Encanto. So we have all these movies. and we've watched them. And why not also do some learning while, you're participating in this as a family?
Yeah, exactly. And these have been so much fun. I think this has kind of been my outlet to unit studies. So like here's Snow White, is getting to kind of create these. And so my kiddos, I test all the like activities out that we do here on my kiddos. And so I see, hey, did this work for me or not? And then I go and change it. So,
right. And we're busy.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make it easy for everyone. Like we really try to make this low prep, because for me personally, I'm not even a unit studies person, and I'm like, I'm simply not gonna do this if I don't have these items on hand. Whereas Stacy's the kind of person who has like pom poms in her closet, or like yarn, or like cardboard things. It's like, I don't have that.
I used to run a daycare, Jenny. I had all this stuff, all these arts and crafts because of my daycare, okay?
How long ago did you have that daycare, and how many moves has that daycare supplies been moved to? Yeah. So, yeah. So, even for people who don't have all the things on hand, it's designed for, people like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I do think it's really, I think that's a big takeaway as well, hopefully, from this, is you need to use the tools that work for you. Like I said, I use the Charlotte Mason method. I gravitated towards that even before I was working, but I wouldn't keep using it if it didn't work for me. I wouldn't keep using Ambleside Online or whatever other curriculum we use in a day if it wasn't actually working. And I've had to cut out certain curriculum, because it just wasn't working. Primary mathematics is a math curriculum that I used for the first several years. Stacy still uses it, and it's great, but we hit a wall, and math was taking way too long for us every day. So I had to take it out and do something that was easier to use for short lessons, like how I homeschool. So use what works for you. And okay, so these are the two takeaways. Use what works for you, and homeschooling and working is hard. What else?
Exactly. No, I mean, that pretty much covers it. You got to learn to go with the flow, make it work for your schedule. Everybody's schedule is totally different. Everybody's family dynamics. Again, if you have family nearby, you might be able to do more things and get a little bit of extra help with childcare when you need to go do something. So you might be able to do work away from the home versus if you don't. And you just got to know that everybody's homeschool looks different, and just know that you can work in homeschool if you put in the time and effort to make it so.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see. I think that was kind of everything we wanted to cover. I don't know if anyone wants us to cover anything else. I mean, I don't know how much more specific I can get, because, I outlined my typical day. Sorry, the sun is like right in my face all of a sudden. I can't really move. But I kind of outlined my typical day, but here's the other thing, because I've tried many times to sit down and not sit down, I've tried really hard to work really hard to make a day in the life video, because I did an Instagram poll and people were like, yes, please make that video. And I was like, okay, there's demand, like people would watch this. This might be helpful to someone. And I've tried so many times to make that video, and it's like every day is so different that I outline my typical day, but it doesn't always go like that. It actually very rarely goes like that. Like there's always something going on. Toddler's fussy. People are sick. We have activities to go to, there's always something. So there's an ideal that I try to hit, but it doesn't always happen so streamlined, I guess.
All right. Well, I don't see any questions for us in the chat at the moment, so I think that's about it.
Cool. This was fun. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We love doing these lives. Let us know if you have any ideas for any future lives you want us to, different topics you want us to cover in lives. We're trying to go live about once a month. So, and we try to make it kind of topical based on seasonally what's going on. Right now, it's kind of like that time of the year where people are like, oh my gosh, if you're new to homeschooling and it's this time in September, you're like, what did I get myself into? So we want to send some sanity your way and let you know everything you're doing is perfectly fine, and keep on keeping on. So yeah, let us know if you have any ideas for what we should do next, because these are fun to do and it's a good way to connect and kind of just instantly deliver you the information you want instead of making a video and it coming out a month later. So yeah, Stacy, any final words?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, well, I guess it's time to say see you next time.
See you next time.